afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Grace Hollow Rabbitry. I am PJ, and today's video is going to be just a little bit different. I haven't been able to record the last couple of days. I haven't really been doing a whole lot. I've been trying to cut some grass, and I've been doing some weed eating. And those aren't things that you want to see. I mean, we all cut grass and we all weed eat, right? Or we hire someone to do it. Not really worth watching. We have had thunderstorms the last 2 days. So between storms, I'm weed eating and whatever. But the storms have been moving in early, so I haven't been able to get a whole lot of that done. And so for the last couple of days, I've pretty much been in the house playing video games. So definitely not something you want to see. But same thing today. It is currently raining. It's dark. It's wet. I had planned to go over the 6- and 7-week-old baby kits with you today because I'm getting ready to wean them. I hope this weekend. I have 2 goals. I really hope on Friday to go and pick up those 2 new cages. The one new one and the one that's been refaced. I hope to go to Paragould, Arkansas on Friday to pick those up. If not, I may have to go all the way up to Wellsville, Missouri and pick them up. Or I may have to reschedule again. I don't know yet. I'm waiting on a phone call to let me know which avenue I'm taking. The other thing I hope to do this weekend, Daddy Jay's schedule is getting ready to change. He's going to, officially going to 12-hour shifts. Now the theory is he's going to work 4 12-hour shifts, and then he's supposed to get, I don't know how the new schedule works, it's a little crazy, but somewhere in there he's supposed to get 4 days off, 6 days off, 1 day off, but he's pulling for our 12-hour shifts. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, and he is going to overnights instead of second shift. Since now there's going to be first and second shift, 12-hour shifts, he'll stay on he'll stay on second shift, but instead of 2:45 until 11 p.m., he's now going to be working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. No, I'm wrong. He decided not to do that. He held his foot down. And he told them, no, I've got seniority. They wanted him to do nights, said it would help the team if he did. And he decided, no, I have seniority. I want days, so he's going to be working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we'll see how that works. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think he's going to get 6 days off in a row. I don't even believe he's going to get 4 days off in a row. But we will see. I could be wrong. Anyway, since it's raining, the wood barn and the carport's both going to be dark. I don't have electricity out there, or at least no lights. I do have fans running, but I don't have lights out there yet. I'm working on a solar light, and I hope to be able to get that pretty soon. It is summertime, which means the days are getting shorter, folks. Yes, they're still long right now, but it won't be long now. It's going to be getting dark very early. And so I'm hoping to get that solar light in there before I lose too much daytime. Anyway, I don't have it currently, and so it is wet, it is dark, and not very good quality for video. So what I thought I would do today is just spend the day talking to you. And what I want to talk to you about is just a little bit of history on me. I know the last couple of weeks you've been picking up little tidbits about me. But I want to go through like a whole general background I was born in Ripley, Tennessee. I think I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I grew up on the banks of the Mississippi. The first 5 years of my life, I lived on the banks of the Mississippi. One of our homes, we moved around a lot. My family was very poor, and we were a poor family. That's just all there was to it. We didn't have 2 pennies in our pockets to rub, so we were very, very poor. And we lived down on the sand dunes of the Mississippi River. My grandmother lived up on the bluff, and in the springtime, when the rains came, you could be up at my grandmother's, and you can look out, and you could see the river, you could hear the barges, and occasionally you could even see the barges float by because the river had flooded so much. About 5 years old, my mother and my father, me and my brother, moved to Missouri. We lived down in the Boot Hill, and we lived there up until I was a freshman in high school. We lived in Kennett for a little while. We lived in a Caruth for a little while, and then we moved to Hornersville, and I went to school at Zenith Hornersville from 1st grade until the first few weeks of my 9th grade year of high school. From there, my family, my mother, me and my brother, my mother and my father divorced. I don't know, I was about 6, I guess. My father moved back to Tennessee and remarried and had a whole new family there. And my mother remained single for the rest of my childhood, actually. She remained a single mom. She raised me and my brother, and we mostly lived there in Zenith Hornersville. And then from there, we moved a couple of times. My freshman year in high school, we moved to Burney, Missouri, and I went to school there, I guess 3 years, from freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then during my junior year, we moved to Garden City, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City, which I lived most of the remainder of my adulthood up until we moved to Arkansas. I lived there my junior year, or during my senior year. My junior year. After my boyfriend at the time, which was my first husband, moved to Kansas City with us, and so he lived with us during my junior year in high school, and we got pregnant, and we had Doolittle. After my junior year, I moved out from home. I was 17 years old, and I got married to my kids' biological father. His name was Danny, and we were married for about 10 years. We originally left Kansas City, and we moved in with his brother for a few months in Dexter, Missouri. And then from there, we got our own place in Dexter, Missouri. And then we moved back to Tennessee, where we lived only a few months. And I graduated high school with a Halls, Tennessee diploma. Now, I did move back just before graduation. We moved back to Dexter, Missouri. And the school I attended and graduated from was Dexter, Missouri. But they gave me a Halls, Tennessee graduation diploma because I graduated with the Halls, Tennessee curriculum and their requirements. And so my official graduation was Halls, Tennessee, although I was attending Dexter, Missouri High School. So a little confusing, but that's just how it was. And so on my graduation pictures, I have pictures of Doolittle up on my shoulder. She was about 5 months old, and so we lived there. Doolittle was about a year and a half, I think. Yeah, because we celebrated her second birthday in Kansas City. So we did move back to Kansas City in 1993, I believe it was. Yeah, September 1993. And I lived in Kansas City up until we moved to Arkansas, 2014. So Danny and I divorced in 2001. I think we were married right at 10 years. We got married in 1991. So yeah, we would have divorced in 2001. And then I dated a few guys. Nothing ever worked. I was a single mom with 4 kids, and we won't even get into the discussion of the kind of men that I ran into. I really didn't have time. I was attending college. I was working 3 part-time jobs. I only had my high school education, so I couldn't get a good job. And so I worked 3 part-time jobs. Which, by the way, throughout my first marriage, I owned a nail salon. I went to cosmetology school. I got my manicurist license in the state of Missouri, and my mother owned a hair salon, and so I rented a space from her, and so I had a nail salon, and her and I together ran a tanning booth. We had a few tanning booths and some toning machines. And so that's what I did throughout my first marriage until we divorced, in which I had to sell out my portion of the shop and move on, go to college, start working part-time jobs. And we divorced in 2001. Daddy J and I met, I believe it was 2003. We met, and we were fast friends, very interested, and then we began dating. Neither one of us was really interested in a relationship at the time, certainly not remarrying. We both had been married, we've both been through divorces. We were both single parents trying to raise kids. I had 4 kids, he had 2. We both worked a lot. When I went to school a lot, and so we didn't have a whole lot of time for a social life at that time. But we obviously fell in love during that time. We dated about 3.5 years before we got married. We got married in 2007. So yeah, we dated almost 4 years before we actually got married. And so our kids grew up together up until shortly after we got married. Daddy J's ex-wife got involved with their kids again, and eventually those 2 kids ended up living with Mom, but we still had my 4 kids full-time. And then Daddy J adopted all 4 of my kids, and so they are our kids by adoption, which is really weird. Did you know? I did not know. It was kind of a shock and a surprise, and I wasn't happy about it, but it's what we had to do. If, in my case, the biological mother married a guy and he adopts my kids, I had to adopt them too. So I not only chose to have my children, I chose them again when we adopted them. So they are technically adopted children, but biologically they are mine. And Daddy J has raised them as if they were his own. Doolittle was just a few days shy of 16 years old, I think, when he adopted her. And then the other 3 were still pretty young. I think Dalton might have been 11 or 12, and the rest, Jesse and DJ, were both very young. DJ was still a toddler, and Jesse wasn't much past toddler. Neither of them were in school yet. So yeah, we lived in Kansas City for a while. We moved around a lot. We lived in Harrisonville, Missouri, and then we lived in Drexel, Missouri, and then we lived in Cleveland, Missouri, and then we lived in Belton, Missouri. And then we lived in Belton, I think 5 years. And then from there, we moved here, and we've been here for 5 years. So that's kind of a little bit of a background on me, where I've spent my life. In those years in Kansas City, like I said, originally I ran a nail salon up until my first divorce, and then I worked a lot of part-time jobs. Mainly I was a pizza cook, cafe, short cook order, things of that nature. I spent a short stint, very short, I hated it. I worked a Christmas season at Walmart, and we had a big to-do over Christmas break. Anyway, it was short-lived. I did not work there very long, and if I can ever help it, I will never work there again. And then after I graduated with my first associate's degree in computer programming, I went to work for a season at H&R Block as a Tier 2 help desk specialist. And from there I went to Labatt Anderson, which was a contract job with the United States Department of Justice. I worked there for about 3.5 years. I loved that job. It paid great. It was awesome for a single mom raising kids. The hours were great. I did have to travel about 45 minutes to work. I lived in Harrisonville at the time, and I worked in Grandview, so it was about a 45-minute drive through the Grandview Triangle, if you're familiar with that area. Not a pleasant place to be, 7 o'clock in the morning, but that's what I had to do. And then they moved from Grandview to Lenexa, which then made it an hour and 15-minute drive. And originally my project manager let me come in 15 minutes late because the daycare center didn't open till 6. And so I couldn't get there till 7:15 most days. Some days traffic was lighter and I made it on time, but usually not. But the project manager was okay with that, and she allowed me to work 15 minutes over. But then the new project manager came in and she said, no, we can't allow that. You have to be here on time, just like everybody else. And so I found another job. At that point, I went to work to La Petite Academy. I was a Tier 3 help desk specialist with them. I did computer repairs from most of the time remotely, and I really enjoyed that job, and I was there for a couple of years, at which point Daddy J and I opened our own business doing real estate recovery, and we did that for a few years until the real estate market crashed at the time. And the banks, some of the banks went out completely. They were real estate banks. They specialized in home loans. And a lot of those fell. And the ones that didn't fall were in a position that they could not afford to do foreclosures at the time. And so, or property repairs and stuff like that. They basically did winterizations and grass cuts, and that was it. And those did not pay, folks, so we ended up having to close the business. And from there, I was a Burger King manager for about 1.5 years. And then I went to Texas, and I was there for a couple months earning my Class A CDL with air brakes. And so I spent a few months driving over the road, which is not good for mine and Daddy J's situation. I would still love to be driving. Unfortunately, it's very hard to raise rabbits when you're on the road. So I had to choose, and I choose to raise rabbits and not drive anymore. So from there, I worked for probably one of my best jobs ever, that I would probably still be there today if we hadn't moved to Arkansas, and that was for MWV Midwest Vaco. We were a plastics manufacturing company. I worked in the molding department. I was a molding inspector for about 3 years, and I had just gotten hired, promoted to quality control just before we moved. In fact, the very day that I took over the position, I went in and told them, hey, we bought property a few months ago, and my husband just found a job, and I'm going to be leaving in about 3 weeks. And so they said, well, no point in training you for the new quality control position, so you'll remain a molding inspector until I left. So, and then since I've moved here, I've worked at Dogwood Designs, and I've been there for 5 years. I got the job before we moved. She hired me about a month before we moved down here, and so the week after we moved, I started, and I've been there ever since. So there's a little bit of history on me. So today's random fact. One thing I did not mention in the history because it's a personal issue, and so if you don't want to get up close and personal with me, you may not want to hear the rest of this. My random fact is I am a foster child, or I was a foster child. My mother and my father, my biological father, was an alcoholic, abusive father. And so when I was real little, I don't remember how old I was the first time I was removed from the home. But they took me out. I think I was still pretty young. I believe I was about a year old. I don't specifically remember it. Some of this is just stories that I've been told. I don't remember it specifically. But the first time, I believe I was about a year old, and I lived with a family. The mother's name was Charlotte. I don't remember the husband's name. And then they had 2 daughters, and I do remember their names. I don't want to disclose it just in case someone puts it together and I reveal, something that this family didn't want known. But I do remember Charlotte vaguely. I can remember, really I only remember 3 incidences while I lived at that family, or with that family. One, they were having, it seems like they were having new concrete poured, new sidewalk perhaps, or maybe a new patio, I don't remember. And they had one of the stone houses that had the concrete slabs on the top. And I was walking on the concrete slab on the pillars of the front porch railing is what it was. And she was just trying to say, now don't you fall from there. And before she even got it out of her mouth, I fell and I broke my arm. I have a scar. I don't know if the camera will show it. It's right here. I have a lot of bunny scratch scars, but there's one that's different. It goes here and it goes backwards. That used to be down here at my elbow, and it went 3/4 of the way around my elbow. It broke my arm, and I remember that the bone protruded. It broke through the skin and protruded through the skin, and they took me to the ER, and they put a cast on, and I remember going back to there and having the cast removed. So I remember that. I remember there was a set of long wooden steps on, I guess, the back area of the house, the back porch or back patio or balcony or whatever it was. It was a long wooden set of stairs. And I remember sitting there feeding a raccoon. So there's that. And then the third thing I remember, I was visiting. She had the people in charge, the office people, had allowed me to go visit my aunt, my father's sister, because I assume it was my father's mother had passed, and they had let me attend the funeral, and so they allowed me to go to my father's sister's house, and my father's sister, my aunt, took me to my grandmother's funeral. Now I'm assuming, because it was my father's sister that took me, I'm assuming that was my father's mother, but I don't remember for sure. But I do remember going to one of my grandmother's funeral for whichever one that was. It seems to me perhaps someone had told me that my father's mother actually passed before I was born, but I don't remember. So it could have been my mother's mom that I went. Either way, those are the only 3 instances I remember. There was several other foster homes after that. I was with Charlotte for the longest, and I know there was 2 or 3 others after that. And I remember my last one. Their name was Melba and Tom, and they were in the state of Missouri. That's all I'm going to disclose about them. And I have a lot of fond memories of Melba and Tom. So guys, if you happen to be watching, I wanted to thank you for the short time that you had me and took care of me. I do remember you guys, and I have fond memories of you. I seriously doubt you're watching my video, but if you happen to be watching them, thank you. So, yeah, I was, for about 5 years off and on, I was a foster kid. And I guess that probably explains a lot if you've ever met me. But yeah, in the first informative years, I was a foster kid in and out of various different foster homes. And so that's how that went. So hey, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little history on PJ, and I hope you consider, if you qualify and if you have the, I always grew up thinking, I'm going to be a foster parent when I grow up. That was my dream. I wanted to be a foster parent because of people like Charlotte, Melba, and Tom. They really made a difference in my life. There was some other foster parents that really wasn't any better than the home that I was removed from. And so because of those type people, I wanted to grow up and be a foster parent and provide a safe, loving environment for kids who are in struggling situations. However, as an adult, I realize it takes a special person to be a foster parent. I wished with all my heart that I was one of those special people, but I'm not. I don't have, I get attached too easily. Once I took a child in, I don't think I could ever give it up again. And so I don't have the disposition or the heart to take in foster kids. I wish to God I did, but I'm just not that person. But if you are, I do encourage you, if you've ever thought about it and you feel like you could provide a good home, then I encourage you to do so. I know at least Melba and Tom, and I'm sure Charlotte and her family, they were loving foster parents, and they really made a difference in my life. So that's, the message I'd like to pass along is, if you think you could provide a loving, supportive home for a foster kid, then give it some thought. Hey, thanks for watching, and until we speak again, God bless.